Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach has been released for over 2 years now, but many mysteries still lie within the Pizzaplex. There's the mystery of the sticky note room, the messages Gregory receives on his watch, and there's one mystery that I haven't seen anyone in the community talk about. Even most recently, during an interview with Fnaf and the creator of Fnaf Security Breach, he revealed that there are still unsolved mysteries that the fandom hasn't been able to solve or even discover. And in this video, I'm going to cover what I think is one of those undiscovered mysteries and what I think people overlook in Fnaf Security Breach, and this is none other than Rockstar Row. Rockstar Row was featured in the opening of Security Breach, and it's a museum featuring old and new artifacts from the franchise. And on the surface, it may just seem like this museum only serves the purpose to hold fun Easter eggs and to show how much time has passed in the timeline. I'm sure many people, including myself, only look through the displays when playing for the first time, but after that, it's easy to just walk past it and completely ignore it. Even when doing research about this room, I couldn't find any theories on it, and anything else I found online was focusing on the wrong thing, as I think one of these displays is the key to solving Fnaf Security Breach in the next games that follow. But first, let's look at each display in Rockstar Row. Going in chronological order, we see Fnaf 1's Freddy's foot and bow tie, Freddy's arm and ear, Freddy's mic and its stand, Chica's torso, foot, and her infamous cupcake, Bonnie's guitar, and finally we see Foxy's torso and jaw. We then see various posters from FNAF 2 and from FNAF 3. We also see these toys from the FNAF 4 bedroom, but we don't see any artifacts from FNAF's sister location. In the corner of the room, we can find cardboard cutouts of Dreadbear, Ennard, Shadow Bonnie, Nightmare Balloon Boy, Circus Baby Plush, and Plush Trap. We also see this stage from FNAF Help Wanted, and it's supposed to be a replica of the first FNAF stage. But finally, we see Glamrock Chica's old guitar, this film reel with the label movie on it, and we see this display with what looks to be animatronic parts and one single eye, and this is the display I think is crucial. Even when replaying Security Breach, this display would always grab my attention, but I never really knew why. Something about it just felt important. It wasn't until I realized that it's obvious where every other single display is from except this one. We know these parts were from FNAF 1, we know this stage was from FNAF Help Wanted, and we know these posters were from FNAF 3, but nothing in this display told us where it's from or what it even means. And this is when I began to dig deep and answer who this eye belongs to. I simply started by searching the term missing eye with FNAF, and I found that only 3 animatronics out of the entire franchise fit this description: Mangle, Ennard, and Lefty. Immediately, none of these animatronics caught my attention as they don't seem important enough to be shown in a display. They also have no real connection to each other, so I quickly reached a dead end. I then thought of going through the game files, as it was possible the name for the asset would reveal who the eye belonged to. And right as I was opening the file for the main Rockstar Row floor, I would come to find that all of the game files were named the same, so again I reached a dead end. But one of my last ideas was to look closer into the actual displays themselves, and that's when I realized they all have a colored tag that puts them in a certain group. Any display with the yellow tag meant the artifact was from the FNAF 1 location, like Freddy's bow tie. Any display with the gray tag simply meant it was one of the animatronics guitar, like Bonnie's original guitar. But 4 items have a pink tag that was hard to put into a group: the eyes and parts, Foxy's jaw and torso, the FNAF 4 toys, and this random gray device. Again, these 4 artifacts have nothing in common, but I started to compare the eye to all of Foxy's eyes through the franchise, but none of them were a direct match or really seemed that similar. But this is when I had one last idea, which was a bit desperate, but it was really the only option I had left, which was to grab a 3D model of each individual animatronic, add them to Blender, and take them apart to really compare the eyes. Now, I only checked animatronics from FNAF 1 to FNAF sister location, and I also made sure to skip FNAF 4 and FNAF 3 animatronics since they aren't actually real. But there were still a lot of animatronics to go through, and this process ended up taking a decent amount of time. I also made sure to try my best to only use models from FNAF Help Wanted and FNAF AR to make sure I was as accurate as possible when comparing these eyes. I would take off the mask and parts of the endoskeletons to take a better look at the eyes, and I did this for each character. But each time I found the same result. The eyes wouldn't be a direct match, and most of the time the eyes just looked like any other standard animatronic part. From the original Freddy to Balloon Boy to Ballora, I kept dissecting these animatronics to try and find an answer, but again I hit a dead end, and eventually I had looked into each animatronic. At this point I felt even more desperate, so I started to look into random animatronics to see if there was some connection, and that's when I found it. It was right in front of me the whole time. When dissecting the endoskeleton from FNAF Security Breach and when looking into the eye and its socket, they look almost identical. We see black and orange in both of them, and they even have a similar shape. But obviously this can't belong to one of the newest endoskeletons, as this eye is much older, but I think it does still belong to an endoskeleton. And what endoskeleton is old while also being crucial to the new Fnaf? Of course, this is the Mimic. Now in Ruin, the Mimic does have both of its eyes, and even when comparing the model to the eye in Rockstar Row, there isn't that much of a similarity, so that's when I turn to the tales from the Pizzaplex novels. In the story, The Mimic, we learn how the Mimic's creator, Edwin, destroyed the Mimic out of anger and frustration. He compressed its face, broke its teeth, bent its spine, crushed its arms, and finally dislocated one of its eyes. And I think it's this dislocated eye that we see in the Rockstar Row display. Now I'm sure that you're thinking this can't be the Mimic's eye, as in Ruin both of his eyes are intact, but we know he's been repaired various times throughout the franchise, so it could be very possible that this is his original eye. I'm sure you've also realized that I haven't talked about the parts next to the eye, and that's simply because no matter how I looked at it, I couldn't tell what it is, and I still really can't. Even when reverse searching this image on Google to try and find something similar, I found nothing. But in the same The Mimic story, we learn that Edwin used unorthodox items like pistons from washing machines and steel rods to create the Mimic. So what if these parts next to the eye are some unorthodox items that were used to create the Mimic? But even if none of this is true, I think another story from Tales from the Pizzaplex tells us something very similar. In Lally's game, we learn that a worker programmed the Mimic to disassemble endoskeletons in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, as originally this location was meant to be a museum like the one we see in Rockstar Row. But the Mimic would then turn against the worker and tear him and other workers apart, which then closed this location. So what if this eye belonged to one of the animatronics the Mimic dismantled, as it's a piece of what was supposed to be the old museum and the new one? But no matter what way we look at it, I think this eye and the parts are supposed to represent the Mimic in some way and how he's always been in the Pizzaplex, especially since as a community we've always focused on villains like Burntrap and the Blob, but I don't think these were supposed to be the main focus. Looking back at the interview with the creator of Studio Studios, he brings up a great point of how the story of Security Breach is told by minor details found around the Pizzaplex, like the sticky notes that Fnaf has already made many videos on. So I also think that Rockstar Row tells us a story, and I think that it also proves that Security Breach served the purpose in setting up Mimic as the next main villain in the franchise. But there's still many mysteries in Rockstar Row that I didn't cover, like this film reel, as I really couldn't figure out where this originated from. But this is where I need your guys' help in finding the deeper meaning in Rockstar Row, like what this film reel holds, if this eye really belongs to the Mimic, and what the displays with pink tags mean. So what do you guys think of all of this, and make sure to comment down below your theories. But I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive on Rockstar Row, and remember, nothing is confirmed and this is all just a theory. It could be very possible that Rockstar Row doesn't have a deeper meaning and that this display is just simply here as an Easter egg. It could even be possible that this isn't an eye and that I've been looking too deeply into everything, meaning we should look deeper into other locations like the sticky note room. But personally, I don't think this is the case, as I really do believe something is here, but only time will tell as more Fnaf content is released. So with all that said, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thanks for watching.